On Thursday night against the Boston Bruins, the Toronto Maple Leafs showed the entire hockey world exactly who they are, and furthermore proved nothing has changed with this team. Following the incident with Brad Marchand and Timothy Liljegren, the head coach of the Maple Leafs team has finally spoken out on the issue, digging into Sheldon Keefe's comments and giving an injury update on Timothy Liljegren. Welcome back to Third Man In. I'm Zack Phillips, and first and foremost in this video, we might as well dig into the Timothy Liljegren injury update because that is the thing that sparked all of this in the first place. The actual incident leading to the injury of where he's at. So just to give an update on what's gone on with Timothy Liljegren in the following days since the incident with Brad Marchand, where he did kind of get Marchand's stick back behind his skates, goes in awkwardly into the boards, feet first. Timothy Liljegren, according to Chris Johnston this morning on Twitter, has suffered a high ankle sprain. This is coming from Sheldon Keefe to Chris Johnston to Twitter to me to now you. This has explained his placement on LTIR for Timothy Liljegren, and this is really unfortunate because he's a young player who's finally getting his minutes. He's in the NHL every single night in an NHL roster, which is something that you couldn't say for him about a year ago, 2 years ago. So finally he gets in, he's getting some confidence. Maybe he can start to build that up and get to become the player that we feel like he could potentially reach if he does get proper usage and more comfortable minutes and a more comfortable routine and timeline. Now that's going to be taken away here as he's got to recover from this high ankle sprain. And on top of all of that, the thing that I feel most poorly for him for is the fact that he's not going to be able to play with the Maple Leafs on this international trip to Sweden, his home country. He's going to have an opportunity to play NHL games in front of his friends and family at home on home soil. That's one of the coolest experiences that you could ever possibly have as one of these European players who comes over here to live out your dream far away from home in North America playing in the NHL, is the opportunity to actually play an NHL game back home on home ice. And unfortunately for Timothy Liljegren, that now has been taken away from him. So wishing him a speedy recovery. I'm hoping that he can get back into this lineup soon, especially because this Leafs defense does have some woes, some issues here within them. And I think Liljegren could ultimately be a good piece of it going forward if he can get some more consistent time and a more consistent role within this team. But for now, he's going to have to recover, take some time away. He does have that high ankle sprain, so placed on LTIR. It's going to be a longer recovery road for Timothy Liljegren. We probably won't see him for a little while back here with this Maple Leafs team. So unfortunate from that standpoint. Now, let's get into the meat and potatoes of this episode and what we're going to talk about here, because I think people are all on the same page, and it's Sheldon Keefe calling out, essentially, speaking out on the incident with Brad Marchand and calling out this Leafs team. There's a bunch of different things that I want to get into within this, but before I go any further, if you're watching this video, you do like the content, please make sure to hit that like video here, or like button here on this video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications. It does help support the show, grow the channel, all that kind of stuff. As well, I'm never one to ask people for money to go to myself, but I'm going to ask you guys this. I do have this disgusting mustache on my face right now. I mean, you can do a little zoom in there. You got the little greasy mustache going on. If you do want to support Movember, there is a link in the description. Myself and my buddies are raising money for Movember, growing out these mustaches. We'll keep it going throughout the entire month. You can donate using the link in the description. That is much appreciated. You don't have to, but if you do want to, the link is there. So that is appreciated. Let's get into Sheldon Keefe and the topic of calling out this team. Jonas Siegel earlier today tweeting out, Sheldon Keefe says he hated everything about his team's response to Brad Marchand taking out Timothy Liljegren. And quotes Keefe, it's not what we want to be about. At times we've responded very well in those situations in the past. It's about consistency though. Look, I've got other thoughts. I saw other tweets come out. First and foremost, Sheldon, this is bullshit. We've almost never seen this out of this team. And in all honesty, the problem is that when we have seen it out of this team, it's about from players who aren't actually part of the team for a long period of time or aren't core players on this team. Specifically, I look at Nick Foligno fighting Corey Perry after he goes knee to the head of John Tavares. It was an accident. It was an accidental knee to the head that severely injured John Tavares and took him out of that entire playoff series against the Montreal Canadiens. And Nick Foligno went out there, told Corey Perry, look, I've got to fight you. That was our captain. You understand? I have to do this. Sometimes it is what it is, and you just got to do it. But the worst thing that could be said about that whole situation, it was Nick Foligno. He was acquired at the trade deadline that year to come here and add some toughness, add some grit, add some depth, and play in the playoffs for this team. That's all he was here for. He's not a core member of this team, and he was the one who had to step up and do it. Outside of that, there's not really anybody on this team who comes in here and has any type of stones to make a move like that or to respond like that. So for Keefe to say, oh, we've responded very well in those situations sometimes in the past, that's a bullshit comment. That is the stupidest comment ever, because the problem here is the fact that you have no identity. There is no character to this team to suggest that they would do this ever. The entire league knows very damn well that it's easy to play in Toronto. It's easy to play against Toronto because they don't respond. They won't do anything to you. And we're not looking for guys to come here like Colton Orr and Fraser McLaren and those types of players, Mark Fraser, back in this lineup. That's not what we're asking for here as Leafs fans. What we're asking for is for this team to have some type of stones to stick up for themselves. I've referenced in the past, but I kind of look at situations like Vegas in the preseason. Mark Stone gets hit. 4 guys jump on the guy who hit Mark Stone. Preseason game. Captain gets hit. 4 guys jump him. Look at the Tampa Bay Lightning last year. It was Bortuzzo. Accidentally bumps into Vasilevsky. 4 Lightning players had their gloves off before Bortuzzo had even stepped away from the net. They were already on top of him before he could even get up. Like, these teams around the league that have success, that go on to be in the playoffs for long periods of time and be consistently fighting for Stanley Cups, they have that attitude. And it's not just about the attitude. That is their character. This is who they are. The Leafs are not. And you could sit here and say, well, stop asking them to do that because that's not who they are. Well, then they will never, ever win shit in this league. Because if that is not who you can be, or you can't add that to your game, you can't bring that out every now and then, you got 0 shot at winning anything here in the National Hockey League. You just don't. This is a sad, pathetic group of lifeless guys wearing jerseys, if that's what it's going to be. And it feels as though guys have come to this team and got it sucked away from them, because reality is, I look at a situation like Max Domi last year in Chicago. Patrick Kane gets hit. Max Domi jumps the guy, goes in there. Tyler Bertuzzi, not afraid of doing it. Ryan Reeves, not afraid of doing it. Yet they come here to this Leafs team, and it seems like they've got neutered. They get their nuts cut off when they come here. And for Keefe to come out and to make a statement like this kind of feels like it comes from the top. It comes from him. So pretty pathetic statement. And on top of that, the final thing that I will say in all of this is people are going to sit here and get mad at me, and I'm fine with it. Come at me in the comments. I want to hear it below, but you're going to sit there and you're going to say, oh, you want Matthews fighting? You want Marner fighting? Yeah, I don't give a shit anymore. Fight. Because look at what happened in the preseason. Sidney Crosby goes out there, a guy goes and hits Chris Letang in the preseason, mind you, fights him. Connor McDavid, last year in the playoffs, Pietrangelo slashes the fingers off of Leon Draisaitl, the first player to respond on the Edmonton Oilers. Connor McDavid, he's the one to go and answer to it. He's the one to go and jump the guy. And if you Leafs fans have forgotten, they all want to throw hissy fits and say, oh, well, we got power plays, we got... Last year in the playoffs, Morgan Rielly goes awkwardly into the boards with Braden Point. Braden Point gets injured. Not a single person in the world thought that was dirty other than a few brainless Lightning fans. But outside of that, everyone knew that was an accident. And yet the right response still to this day, and even I believe it was the right response from the Tampa Bay Lightning, was jumping Morgan Rielly. You may not have liked it, but it's the right response. And guess what? The players who jumped Morgan Rielly were not Zach Bogosian and Nick Paul and all those Corey Perry and Pat Maroon. No. It wasn't them. The players who jumped Morgan Rielly and Austin Matthews and Mitch Marner was Nikita Kucherov, Steven Stamkos, Anthony Cirelli, Nikita Sergachev, Victor Hedman, the top players on that team. Because you know what that does? It's not about showing the other team. Because nothing Toronto does is ever going to make Boston play differently. So take that and get it the hell out of your mind. You know what it does, though? Matthews, Marner, Nylander, Tavares, Riley, they go in and they jump somebody. They go in and they go and respond and stick up for your teammate. The first thing that it does is gain respect throughout the rest of the lineup. Your own goddamn team. You need to gain the respect of your own goddamn team. Everyone respects you as the type of player that you are. That's fine. They might like you in the locker room. But you step up and you stick up for your teammate. You jump in a situation like that. The amount of respect that you will gain because of showing that character and showing your teammates that you care about them is so much more important than being able to score a hat trick in a game. Yeah, that goes a long way in terms of being on the scoreboard. I get that. But you know when that doesn't matter? It doesn't matter in the first round of the fucking playoffs. Nobody cares about that anymore. The playoffs require you to be built differently, respond differently. Last year, this Leafs team got pushed around in Florida. Matthew Knies gets hurt by Sam Bennett. 0 players on the Leafs respond. The end of one of the games, Matthew Tkachuk face washing and punching Mitch Marner. Mitch Marner doesn't do anything. We had an argument on the stream after about whether or not somebody should have stepped up from the Leafs. And people are saying, well, why would he? It's the end of the game. It's because that shows every single person in the world that you have 0 balls. Everyone in the NHL now knows, guaranteed, nothing about this Leafs team has changed. You could do whatever the hell you want to them. And Brad Marchand skated around for the rest of that game, didn't look over his shoulder once because he knew nobody on that Leafs team had enough stones to stick up for Timothy Liljegren or do anything to him. And that is a pathetic statement of this organization. Final thing that I kind of want to get into here, there was a tweet by Darren Dreger. He said, I'm pretty sure the GM and president share Keefe's disdain. This is a stupid goddamn comment here, honestly. Not necessarily from Dreger. I'm not putting this on Dreger. More just saying, if this is any type of directive coming from the president, that there's this frustration coming. And you know why this is a ridiculous comment? Because Brendan Shanahan, the president, has been here for 10 years. He's watched the same shit for 10 years. So to sit here and act surprised that this is just, oh my God, I can't believe they didn't respond. You've watched the same gutless players for 10 years. And you're going to sit here and tell us that you're surprised or you're frustrated? Every single person said something needs to change about this team. Whether it was one of the 4 or the coach, and he sat there and he said no. They bring in Treliving. And you know what? I actually 100% agree. I think Treliving is frustrated with this. He's probably sitting there going, what the hell? I bring in all these other guys. Now, all of a sudden, they're neutered. They can't do anything, go out there and have any type of response. I try to bring snot to this team. I try to build this team in the way that I think is going to have any type of balls, and nobody's allowed to do anything. And then ultimately he's sitting there realizing, oh my God, it's because the core of this group are a bunch of gutless cowards. That's frustrating. I get it. Treliving probably is pissed. But I mean, even as I had tweeted out, the president has been here watching the same thing for 10 years. Shanahan, at some point, show a goddamn pulse. Because this is not the way Shanahan would have conducted himself when he was playing. And there is 0% chance Shanahan would have allowed any of his teammates or the teams that he played on to conduct themselves this way. This is a complete and utter joke, and this team continues to embarrass themselves every single night that they go on the ice. Something needs to change, or else this team will never win anything in the NHL. Let me know in the comments below if you agree, disagree, your thoughts. Hearing Keefe speak out, if you're as frustrated about this as I am, I'm looking forward to hearing and reading all the comments. So drop those down below. If you did enjoy the video here today, please make sure to like this video, subscribe here to the channel, turn on notifications. As always, it does help support the show. And if you do want to help support Movember, the link is in the description of this video. I do appreciate everything. Again, not asking people to do anything at all. If you don't want to, I'm not upset. Just if you do have the opportunity, you do want to, it is there in the description. So thank you guys so much. Thank you for tuning in. I do appreciate it as always. And Leafs fans, I mean, I'm frustrated. I'm pretty pissed off with this team. I don't think anything's going to change within the actual players themselves, but there's one reason that I'm holding out some type of hope, and it's because I think this GM is actually pretty disgusted having watched what he did on Thursday night the other night, and I think he will find a way to implement some change to this team. So for that one reason, that is why I will keep believing.